Hey there guys, and welcome back. So this is officially part 2 of this bottle capper that we are building. I did stream this on Saturday or Sunday, part 2, and I realized that basically this happened. Let's see. I went like this to show you something on my desk. Right now it's kind of messy, but I actually was showing you something with the bottle. Actually, no, it was these bolts right here. I was saying, okay, I'm gonna probably use these M6 bolts, and I was talking about it, and then I just left you here instead of bringing you back over to Fusion, and I proceeded to make all the changes in the world. So we are going to walk through somewhat quickly the changes that I made. First off, concerning this is the first thing I started with. This used to be a collar, a brass collar. I decided to do my research before asking my boss, and according to the internet, yeah, that's just plain not going to happen. I'm not going to weld a brass collar to a sheet of steel. I might be able to braze it, but one of those things, it's more trouble than it's worth at this point. So you live, you learn, and you find out what you can actually do. So we can't do that. Changed it over to this plastic 3D printed part. As you can see, I got these holes lined up here. Let's just go ahead and hop in there to the mounting bracket, rename to mounting bracket. And you can see I just started with the basic round shape, added the holes, mirrored it, countersunk the holes a little bit to put the button heads in, and then added some offsets just to, make sure everything fits snug. That's pretty simple. That's pretty straightforward. A couple other things to note about this that aren't on the timeline. One, obviously the bottom of the bolts, the nuts now, are going to be on the bottom of the plate, which means that I'm going to have to put feet on this. I'm not sure entirely what I'm doing about feet. It's one of those things I could glue feet on. I could put holes and screw them on. Still haven't decided about that, but this plate will have to be raised up a little bit to accommodate the nuts on the other side. The other thing that I was thinking about that I did not talk about in the alternate timeline where I did the other stream, where I did part 2 already, is if this broke, and I had kept on saying, if this breaks, then I'll move on to step 3, which is boring out a inch and a half shaft to make a collar. But the alternative there is, if this does break, I could always beef it up. I could always loft this up, this base up to here in a cone shape, and see whether or not that holds. That may be the easier solution. Next thing we did in the alternate timeline was come up here and fix our problem with this revolve, or rather sweep. So the sweep, I was getting an error at the end of the end of stream 1, and I wasn't really sure what I was screwing up with it. And I realized it's because my line here, my arc is in line with this plane. It's parallel to the plane, and this was on perpendicular. So I changed that over to parallel, and it worked the way I had originally expected it to. So that was an easy fix. The next thing was just playing around with making sure none of this intersected itself, and adding a little bit more spacing if necessary. So I dragged this down, and in that stream I ended up just hitting the cut button, just rather combine cut, capture position, etc. And that's how I did in that one. This time, for reasons I'm about to get into after I finish up recapping, I no longer did that. Actually, did I do that? Let me double check. Okay, I still did it in this timeline. However, I went about putting that cut in a little bit differently, which I will get to. After we were done clearing this up and making sure that this handle had plenty of space to swing down here, that we weren't clipping, I went ahead and did this handle up here. This right now is just a simple handle. I'm half tempted to actually make a silicone mold and then dip this flat stock into the silicone mold and just have a molded handle. It's an idea. It's probably overkill. I may just very well print this in some flexible filament just for the feel of it and leave that alone. Just, it's an easy thing to print. If you look at it, it's straight up. It just takes time is all, because of the size of it. We then, after that point, split this into a clamshell, and I looked at the clamshell And let's open this up. I said, okay, you know what? This clamshell, the way it wants to be printed, which is a little unfortunate because of its dimensions, it wants to be printed straight up and down. And the reason I'd say really quick, just sidebar, the reason that's a little unfortunate is just because this width here, if we print this straight up and down, it's going to have a tendency to want to tip over. Now, I rarely ever have that happen when printing, but it is something that can happen, so it's something to keep in mind. It very well may print perfectly a-okay, but it's something to keep in mind. And along those lines, what the one part of it that is not going to print well, aside from the holes, and the holes we can always just drill out. It's not a big deal if the holes are a little funky because they're printed up and down like this. But the other thing that we had to change, because we're going to be printing it vertically, is we added a chamfer here. That way, let me move this plunger cap out of the way. When this prints, it has a slope. It has a not as steep overhang. It's still a little on the steep side, but it's not that bad. So that should print. That's the only piece that we needed to change in order to print vertically without any serious issues and without support filament, without supports, period. And after we were done that, I believe after we were done that, I just threw these holes in here and then started doing these holes. And it was at this point that I realized that as I was showing off these holes and talking about where they could be and whether or not I need to also put some mounting holes in the back here to help keep it together, because as this lever arm swings down, it's going to want to split this clamshell. So this whole entire clamshell is going to have some force, as we were talking about, towards the back end and some tilting force. So that could wedge the clamshell open, and therefore we might want some more reinforcement in the back. That's something I actually am not adding just yet. I'm going to go ahead and see how it performs in the actual field, and then if it needs some more clamps, then we'll go ahead and add that. Otherwise, like I said, this is the point at which I realized that we were not actually showing what was going on in Fusion, which was very unfortunate. And the stream got privated because I figured I'm going to have to redo this, because there's no way I'm going to just have you stare at my desktop for 45 minutes. And that catches you up. So last thing we need to do up here is just, some prettification, because obviously if you think about the bolts going through here, they're going to catch on these things. So I'm probably going to slide these holes in a little bit further so that they're further in, and then add relief for the button heads and the nuts to sit in so that they're not protruding out the side, so they look a little bit better. Now, on to the next section, which is things I had to change because outside of the stream, because I started to actually work on this. So first off, I was double checking the length of this, and you may notice it looks a bit taller. And that's because my 16 inches, my 15 to 16 inches, which is what I was measuring at first, and I'm just grabbing the bottle really quick. So, grab a tape measure, just so that I'm 100% certain on this one. Okay, yeah, so right now my tape measure is telling me more like 12 inches than 13, but look, we'll call it 12 inches. 12 inches plus I was giving myself 3 inches of space was 15, and that's what we made this shaft at originally. Problem is that we made this shaft at 15 originally, and then we dropped down 6 inches to add this housing. That obviously means that our bottle does not have enough space anymore, because we only accounted for 3 inches. Not something I realized until I double checked my math before I started trying to make this thing, which, one of those things, it's always a good thing to double check yourself before you start actually fabricating. So all that happened here is I extended this shaft up. It has we made it with an extrusion straight up. Try to find it on the timeline. Let's see, vertical shaft. There it is. So yeah, this I just changed to, I think, 22. Let's double check that. Yeah, 22. So it's 15 for my clearance for the bottle. 13 or 12 plus 3, rather 12 plus 3 inches is 15. 3 inches just clearance between the bottom of the plastic part and the plastic housing and the bottle top, and then 6 inches for our plastic housing, and then I added an extra inch for the bell, whatever you call that, the bell mouth hold or bell cap housing, whatever that thing is called. I still haven't looked up what it's actually called. The thing's more like 1.5 inches, but I figured these 3 inches that I included in here as leeway, if I lose a 1/2 inch to go into here for the bell cap, then that's, not a loss. It's still 2.5 inches of clearance, and we probably could have even less if we wanted to. So that catches you up on that one. Next thing, I started to fabricate this shaft, and I realized I was being a bit optimistic, which is unfortunate. Actually, let me back up a second. When I changed the shaft height, this feature right here, where the handle connects, broke pretty badly. One of those things, it didn't take me terribly long to fix it, but I did have to delete a lot of constraints because we have a lot of constraints on this and re-implement them. So that's just something probably would have been nice to have on stream, just as a, hey, look, something breaks, no big deal, just open up another and a previous version of it. Make sure one of those things. Save somewhat often. Obviously, I only save at the end of every stream, but you could probably save it a bit more often than that, and I normally do save a bit more often than that off stream. I just don't spend time saving while I'm on stream. But if you save previous versions, then you can open up a previous version in parallel to see what was happening, because things may look very different inside of that sketch, and then you can figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. So that's the only tip there. Anyway, back to this. I started fabricating this, and the way I thought I was going to do it, I was very, very optimistic, and it's not going to work out. So rather than having a double D here, we are going to have a single D. And what this is doing, so the reason to include a feature like this D at all, there's 2 reasons for that. I mentioned one of them was that it gives me a surface to drill straight into. Obviously, drilling into a round pipe can be a little tricky. This just makes my life a lot easier to drill through. The second thing that this does is it sets in orientation. Back to, I was talking down here how this is going to have to be drilled and pinned, and I'm a little concerned about having that orientation exactly correct. Well, up here with this D shape, we are guaranteed to have this housing in line with that D, parallel to that D, or collinear with that D rather. So we don't have to worry about this spinning. Also, obviously the pins will hold it and keep it from spinning, but it's just one of those things. As we're sliding it up and down, it also doesn't spin. So it's a nice feature to have for a couple different reasons. Now, obviously I changed that to a single D, and this housing broke, so we're gonna have to fix that. So let's look at what's going on here. Where's our shaft? Okay, this is after. Are we in the plunger housing? Yeah, we are in the plunger housing. So this broke pretty badly. Let's look at it. Okay. I am thinking we're going to do that thing that I was talking about earlier. We're going to pull up a previous design. Whoops, not you. You. Get out of here. Alright. Version 4. Open that up. No. I don't recall. Why did I have a recovery version for that? That's interesting. I don't recall. Maybe. No, I don't recall my computer shutting down at any point there. So, not sure why we had a recovery version. Moving on. Where are we at? Where's our profile at? That one. Alright. So let's see what we had going on here. Okay. So this is the big thing that broke. this offset here. So let us fix that. And actually, whoops, not equals. Yeah, I was gonna say I couldn't think of an actual offset constraint. It's funny because this does happen every once in a while. You'll lose an offset set reference, and there is no way to fix it aside from deleting and reattaching. And what was our size over here? 5mm. Right, because it's the housing. So you are now 5mm. And now we can reattach all this. So you are going to, whoops. Yeah, you are going to go here. You are going to go here. And then let's see what we're doing. That just broke. Where are you guys? Oh, okay. You're just not attached. Understood. Attach, attach. And then let's look at this stuff. Okay, and you guys got unattached from these circles right here. All right, so that should be everything. And there we go. We fixed that. So let's take a look and see how well we did. And that happened. So let's roll back, roll back, roll back, roll back. Let's see, where is this guy at? Purple, orange, sketch, 1 on plunger housing. Roll here, or don't roll here. Come on, Fusion, wake up. Roll here. All right. Forward. Fusion. All right, Fusion is being a little obnoxious today. Understood. And we reselect these. And I'm gonna go ahead. Whoops, not that button. Until we get to the first yellow, I'm gonna go ahead and just manually hop through here. And then once we clear the first okay, we didn't clear the first yellow. Okay. I was hoping that was going to reattach just fine. It did not. Oh, interesting. So it thinks... What happened here? Why does it think that face is... Oh, okay, never mind. That's the shaft face. Okay. Let's manage loss projections. That guy. Okay. Finish. This guy... Oh, no. Where did he break? I didn't want to have to fix this guy because this guy is difficult. I guess this isn't the more difficult one, so it's not as bad. Roll here, roll there. Yeah, that's that one. That's the one that I was afraid was broken and is not, so we're good. It's this one. Okay, so that was collinear there, and then the other one was perpendicular. Or not perpendicular. That one is... Oh, it's perpendicular to that line segment. Perpendicular to that line segment. Says it's over constrained. So what is the problem here? Turn these plunger caps off. Why don't you want to be perpendicular? Let's see. Alright, we're going to detach that. Try it again. Nope. Detach this. Try it again. Okay. At this point, I am deleting that line. That is now perpendicular to that. And, oh, I see. No, I don't see. Huh. Why doesn't it want to be perpendicular? That's fascinating. Let's delete that. Project. Bodies. Okay. Bodies. Fun. Okay, something is seriously wrong here. These are all getting deleted. Let's take a look over here. That guy, I guess, is alright. Yeah, I guess that's alright. So, something with this. I want collinear, I don't want parallel. They're effectively the same thing, but... There's that. Okay. That fixed it. So it was a problem with this line over here. Is what it looks like. Now, why is that so much? Oh, okay. That corner is where we want to... Huh, okay. So it looks like, rather... this line, something is wrong with this point here. Let's try that again. All the fun stuff that you got to figure out. Huh. What am I projecting here? Am I just projecting a previous sketch? I guess I'm just projecting a previous sketch. Project. Okay. Turn you off. Construction lines. Huh. So what that suggests to me is that that line is no longer... Okay, there looks like there are two circles here. Let's do that. So our circle was not correct here is what happened. And how was this circle? I guess this circle, I just had quinkadink to the corners here. All right. That should be correct now. All right. And as previously stated, whoops. Okay, and because we had to redo all this, we got to reselect those profiles. As previously stated, everything just basically comes down to slowly working through it and not panicking. Don't panic. Another one of these has a problem. Compute failed on which one? Turn off the bodies. Turn off the bodies. Compute failed on... So I don't see it, but presumably it's this line right here. So we come back over here, check what that line was supposed to be doing, and move on. Bodies. This line looks like it's just quinkadinks. Yep, and that's no longer quinkadinks. Let's see if we can fix this without deleting it. Huh. It's not getting constrained, which is a problem. Let's do that. There we go. And again, we're going to have to fix that profile more than likely. Let's see what that is actually supposed to be doing. Huh, so that's just everything again. Right? Yeah, just everything again. Not entirely sure what this is here for, but I guess we'll... Is this the right one? Let's see, let's see, let's see. Yeah, it looks like the right one. Deletes. Aha. Okay, I see what I'm missing here. Delete this, turn that off, get our profiles, and that guy. Body. Huh. Draw handle. This is interesting. Let's take a look at this guy again. What part of... So it looks like I may have had something repetitive going on here, and this may not actually be necessary at this point because it's saying that it's not intersecting. Yeah, this is all selected. So it's saying it's not intersecting any of the orange body right now. Hey, why are we hollow? So that might actually be why it's not. Yeah, there we go. And that's why. So before we were accidentally cutting way too much, and we're cutting way too much again. Okay. So, yeah, that's basically what happened. We ended up with a hollow body because of what had happened, because we had done things and didn't notice that the extrusion hadn't applied correctly, and therefore this one was failing because it didn't have anything to cut. And we're walking through. And let's just hop to the end and see what happens. So just one more here. And this, I believe... I'll double check it over here, but I believe this is the hole in the center of the shaft. Or handle, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's the hole in the center of the handle. So, that one we know how to fix. Not that. Turn that off. Get that profile. Turn that back on. Cut that. There we go. And now everything is good. Alright, so we've changed this over to double D. We've added this stuff, added that. I don't think I'm going to model the feet, so the only thing left to do should be turn the plunger and this plunger shaft back on. There we go. So the last thing to do is just the stuff that we were going to finish up last time, up until the point that I realized we weren't recording Fusion. Sorry, duh, brain fart. Is just prettifying this whole layout, and it looks like I broke some of the constraints here, so we will go ahead and fix that. But we will, while we're fixing that, add in some relief, and we'll just do this all on one all on one sketch, rather than... How did I have this before? Rather than adding another sketch for the relief, I'm just going to do it all in one sketch and then work off that. So let's grab these holes and figure out where these are done at. Right here, right here. So, okay, so this was a distance, so this was 3/4 of an inch from the top. No. Let's make this perpendicular to that. You saw that was giving me degrees, and when it's giving you degrees, that means that you are not parallel. Also, one thing that you didn't get to see because this wasn't on stream, or rather it was on stream, but obviously the recording's no longer up. You can see here, and my graphics are glitching a little bit here, but the way I did half points here, so I wanted these staggered corner, and then halfway down. I threw another line from one end to the midpoint of that line. Same over here from the bottom to the midpoint here. And that's how I did it. One of those things, there's always 1.5 million ways to skin a cat, but that's the way I ended up doing it this time. Just turning stuff off to make it easier. So these are, what did I have these set at? Did I have these set as 6mm? Let's see. Yep, 6mm screws. Bolts rather. So I gotta get, oops. Okay, good. That's still set at 6mm. It's just not constrained. And what was it? 3/4 from the bottom, 3/4 from the bottom. Okay, so we can fix that, and then we will just need to constrain left and right. 0.75. Okay, now we just have left and right to deal with. Now, the button head, I forget for the 6. The top, the button head width diameter is 10.2-ish. I'll go 10.25 and just call it a day. 10.25mm, and then just make all these guys equal to make my life easier. Other way to do this is just to assign that dimension to them as a reference, so that you don't have to change all of them at the same time. And then for the opposite side, we need the nut. The nut across is 9.85. I'm just gonna call, well, no, it's the nut, so I'm gonna call that 9.85. The button head I don't care about being loose, the nut on the other hand. And I'm going to orient it like this because we're going to be printing vertically. So this way we have slopes on these sides. If I spun this, and that's going to do silly things because it's restricted, but if you imagine this being flat here, then we'd have a bridge on the top when we go to print this. We don't want that, so I'm printing it at an angle. And I totally forgot what I said already. 9.85, that's right. 9.85, not inches. 9.85mm. Nice. So the hex nut has the bigger overall area than the circle, so I will use that to throw just a 3mm wall around. It's an extra 6mm in diameter, but doesn't necessarily matter. Now, the way to do this, there's a couple different ways, because if we look at our body, we have some features here that we're going to get a little close to, which means that we want to extrude these out. And if we extrude these out, we don't necessarily need to have this clearance, this 3mm clearance. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and turn this body off so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and just have this like this. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go collinear with that hex, and to keep everything in line, I think this is what I'm gonna do. There's a couple different ways to do this, but I'm gonna put a reference line that's midpoint on both, and you can see that they are now equidistant, or at least they should be. Let's double check my math. 0.194, 0.194. Yep, so these are now equidistant from these two areas because it's the midpoint of this line lined up with the midpoint of that line, and this is a right angle here. So geometry. Somehow I'm stuck on the dimension tool, at least that's what Fusion is saying. I'm going to ignore it. And unfortunately, we don't have a real pattern here. I could try putting in some extra planes and then mirroring features, but instead I'm going to do this the hard way, or the more time consuming way, and throw these all in here. So do that, parallel with that, this dimension equal that dimension, and let's just do all the hexes at the same time. That parallel with that. That is D whatever this is, D170. And the last hex. We don't, however, have to throw in the construction line down there, because we only needed that to set the distance of this circle. So it is unnecessary. All the rest of these capture walls, I'm going to call them, the extra walls to keep the bolts and nuts in place, all of these can just be equal to the original one. We don't need to reference anything in relation to it. And that completes that. So let's back up to where we actually made these holes, which was before we split into a clamshell. And let's extrude those. And then we should be done, at least for the time being, until I figure out that something else is wrong. And looking at this, that's the D shaft, that's the front side. So it's one of those things, where I live, left is the start and right is the end. So obviously that may be different where you live, but since left is the start, I'll put the button heads on the left and the nuts on the right. Now, the other thing that, so the counter argument here, right, is that other people are right-handed and therefore they're going to use their Allen key on the right-hand side. They prefer to use their Allen key on the right-hand side. That's not my problem. I have no problem using my left hand. So I'm being a little bit greedy. How do I say this? Let the peasants deal with not having the correct hand. Let's say that. And actually, I should do this to make my life easier. This is one of those things that can technically come back to bite you later on, but is unlikely to. And therefore I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn all the bolt holes into construction lines to extrude the hex, and then all the hex holes. Oh, and actually at this point, because I was selecting, because I just did that, now it's back to right-handed people. So this, now I have egg on my face. That is, whoops. It looks like 4.9 is the thickness of our bolt here. So I'm just going to call it 5, leave a little bit of space, 5 millimeter, and join. So it has a little bit of extra space. And then we extrude the backside. Sketch, and actually let's reverse this now. So I'm going to turn those off a construction line and the hexes into construction lines. Again, if something changes, this actually will cause us to take extra steps to reverse this, but I'm not expecting it to. I'm expecting this to work just fine. So now we can, oh, derp. That's right. I didn't want to turn the hexes off while I was doing this. Yeah, that would happen, wouldn't it? A little bit of a brain fart on my behalf there. Alright, so we get to keep our hexes. You can see they don't have the weird circles in them. But for our circles over on this side, we are going to have to do extra selects. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. Turn the body off so we can actually select things. Circles with the edges. Or actually, no, I take it back. Outside without the corners, because we're doing the circle. We want the opposite because we're extruding this. We are not extruding it outwards. We're not cutting. We're joining, we're not cutting. If we were cutting, then I would want to select the inside of the circle, but we are not doing that this time because we don't want it to interfere with the shaft or anything else. Do this. Almost done. So close to being done. The next thing we'll be doing, just to polish this off, is... Oh, darn. I did the wrong circle. Alright, we will come back and fix this one afterwards. I don't want to have to reselect all of them. So, we do this from object, and I should probably do from object on the other one too, but not at the moment. Now for the button heads, the button head thickness is 3.25. So we'll call that minus 3.3 millimeter, not inches. Join. Okay. And then let me fix this because I selected the wrong circle to construction line. And then we'll come back in here, edit this guy, fix our mistake. There we go. Select the corners. Okay, turn the body back on. And there we go. Now let me double check over here. It occurred to me, no. Okay, good. Because I had these hexes collinear with this line, it didn't end up being an issue. But if the hexes were simply parallel to that line, there was a chance that these hexes would actually be part of this curve, in which case what we want to do is we want to extrude cut the inside of the hex out in order to get rid of that. But that is not an issue we have this time. So the very, very, very last thing I'm going to do here is just add some 3D printing offset. New offset is what I normally do. And 0.05 millimeter is my 3D printing offset that I expect my printer, whoops, minus 0.05 millimeter that I expect my printer to handle. And these nuts will be snug inside these holes, as will the bolts on the other side. And it's one of those things, the plastic does give a little bit, so if it's just under, just barely under, by let's say another 0.1 millimeter, then the plastic will give and we'll be able to just suck it in. And that is everything. Okay. 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 Let's go to the end. Come back up here. Turn everything back on so we can view our masterpiece. And I didn't have music playing this whole time. Whoops. Well, now you get music for the last couple of seconds. So anyway, yeah, that's where we're at. That's everything that we need to make this thing. Print out these two clamp cell sections, and I'm going to do that after I finish making this shaft. I'll make this shaft, make sure that it's to spec, and if I need to change the dimensions in here on the 3D print, I'll do that. Otherwise, print it out, bolt it together, do this sleeve, again, however I feel like doing it. I very well may just print it out. That also print out. Get this rubber in here like we're talking about, and then just got to figure out what I'm doing with the feet. And again, the feet, ooh, look at that. I did not mirror the cut holes, it looks like. Let's see. We're going to do that and that. Huh, interesting. Roll here. Base plate. Next. Where do I do the cut holes? Okay, it looks like we just lost a little bit of profiles there. And one of those things got that symmetric error. We'll just turn it back to one-sided to fix it. Alright, now, tell me now we're done. All right. Anyway, so yeah, the feet for the bottom of the plate to compensate for those nuts that I will have holding the base down, or holding the collar down here, and she'll be good. So yep, that was fun. That was I mean, I was gonna say first major disaster on stream with the last version of this episode being a complete debacle, but actually, come to think of it, I've screwed up more than that. So one of those things. Get better at this every day, and then eventually we'll be halfway decent. So thank you for watching. I hope some of this was useful. I hope that you learned things that you may not have known, and when I finish this capper and in real life, I will go ahead and show it to y'all, do a video on it. Again, regular content is coming, just have been too busy to get that done. Also was waiting on a couple supplies which came in on Sunday evening. So now the supply, actually no, that one came in last night. So yeah, had a couple supplies that I wanted to use as part of the recording, and it's all here, so I don't really have any more excuses. So expect regular content coming out on the channel soon, and I have a lot of old projects that I plan on putting up. One of those things, always my intention to put them up at least on Thingiverse. Now that I'm doing the YouTube channel, will also put them up on YouTube and make videos of them. And yeah, look forward to it. Really excited to be doing this. Thank you for being here with me. Have a great afternoon, day, evening, wherever you're at in the world.